Good afternoon to all of you. Sorry to keep you waiting. Okay. And our Honorable Minister is on way. And it will take another 5-7 minutes for him to reach here. So please hold your breath for another 5-7 minutes. Okay. Please.
So, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Florian Kyle. I'm the Communication Officer of the Convention on Migratory Species. I'd like to welcome you warmly to this closing press conference of the 13th Conference of the Parties to CMS. We're going to have around 45 minutes, maybe a little bit less. Plenary will resume at 2:15, so we have to be a little bit quick. I'm sorry about that, but yeah, there's still some decisions to be made. So it's an important note to the media. The final decisions are still upcoming. We moved the press conference to now to make sure that we can hold it, but there are some decisions that will still be made in plenary coming up. Yeah, my distinguished panel will have the opportunity to have 5 to 10 minutes of a statement. We'll start with Mr. Babul Supriyo, Minister of State for the Environment and Forest and Climate Change of the Government of India. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Happy to be able to meet all of you, once again, to share with you everything that was discussed, apart from things that we have achieved in terms of discussions with amongst the several countries that you know have taken part in this very, very successful COP. A lot of credit goes to the gentleman sitting to the left of me, Mr. Soumitra Dasgupta, who's the IG of Forests, Wildlife. On my right is Amy, who has, captained the entire ship and made sure that it floated and was made to float in the right direction. She's the Executive Secretary, as you know, of the Conference for the Conservation of Migratory Species. And Mr. Sanjay Kumar is with me on stage. He's the Additional Director of Forests from our Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. Gentlemen, I really love the way you pronounce my name, Babul Supriyo. I never really had a gentleman migrating from a different country actually pronounce my name correctly. So congratulations on that. It shows that we have really had some great interactions where, India as the presidential, which is going to enjoy the presidency for the next 3 years, may have, apart from the, exchange of ideas, may have also, inflicted a little bit of a dialect into the delegates who come from foreign countries. So once again, thank you so much. Everything is going to be introduced and spoken to you now, presented to you by Amy. So it's all over to you, Amy.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. It's an honor to be here again with the minister, the additional director, with Dr. Sharma, and of course my friend Soumitra Dasgupta, with whom we've worked very hard to make this COP a success. We've issued a press release that gives you some sense of what are some of the major things we're leaving here with. At the opening press conference we said, there's a lot to do, and CMS has a huge role to play to address the trends of biodiversity loss and species loss. We're leaving this conference armed with some very important decisions that will take us forward, and with the great leadership of the government of India. So I think I'm interested to hear your questions in terms of some of the accomplishments, and so I won't go through them all here, but I do want to also explain that what will happen next in the other room will be, we do have just 2 remaining decisions, actually just 1 remaining decision to be agreed by the Conference of the Whole, which is kind of like the technical part of our meeting. And then the Honorable Minister will be chairing the final session, which is our plenary, our COP plenary. So it's kind of back to the beginning. And he will preside over that with some final business that we have to do. There'll be election of new officers to the bodies of CMS, including our standing committee, our scientific council, etc. There'll be some final words spoken. I have some final remarks. I think we'll also be hearing from the government of India and a few other important pieces of business. But as you've heard, at the close of the meeting is when the government of India will take on this very important leadership role as the CMS COP presidency. And we greatly look forward to working together from today until the next COP to do what we can to address the problems faced by migratory species. So thank you very much. Glad you're all here, and we look forward to your questions.
Okay, we'll turn to questions. Okay, I see one hand over there. Could you please, stand up, give us your name, the media house you're working for, and to whom you would like to direct the questions.
थोड़ा सा राइट आ जाइए, बीच में आ जाइए, पीछे किसी कोई दिख नहीं रहा है. थोड़ा सा लेफ्ट आ जाइए. सारे इलेक्ट्रॉनिक मीडिया साथ में आ जाइए, पीछे कोई दिख नहीं रहा है. थोड़ा लेफ्ट आ जाइए. और आप लोग थोड़ा शिफ्ट कर दीजिए अगर हो सके तो. दिख नहीं रहा है कोई भी.
Hi, my name is.
अगर आपके लेफ्ट की तरफ थोड़ा जाएंगे तो इन लोगों को मैं चाहता हूँ थोड़ा इधर आ जाए, पीछे कोई दिख नहीं रहा है. अच्छा, नहीं, राइट में जाने से केबल छोटा नहीं होगा. हाँ, बस आप थोड़ा जाइए, बस हो गया. वेरी गुड.
सबको दिखना चाहिए.
चलिए.
So hi, my name is Ishan. I write for Down to Earth magazine. My question is to you, Amy. So in my understanding, there was a discussion on Article 9 and its Article 3 and its implementation. And correct me if I'm wrong, but it started with this proposal that which included that parties would share trade data in terms of import and export. Can you hear me? Parties would share import-export data of Appendix 1 species, and also the Scientific Council of CMS will undertake a study on the impact of this trade. Now, in the decision, the final decision, the bit about the parties sharing the import-export data has been dropped. So given this, what would be the impact? How will the CMS know which country is trading what? And also, CMS's mandate is to conserve species under Appendix 1, while CITES has the mandate to do trade. So why is CMS Scientific Council undertaking a study on the impact of this trade when trade isn't even supposed to happen, because even take is restricted? So.
Okay.
Amy, I think.
Yeah.
I think it's a very technical subject, and Honorable Minister was not a part of the technical discussions. I think Amy can take the call.
Yeah.
Please.
Okay. Right. So the issue why there was a discussion on this topic is that, CMS deals with the conservation of migratory species and their habitats. CITES, which is our sister convention, one of our sister conventions, deals with the legal and illegal trade of wildlife, which includes animals and plants. They have a similar system where they have an Appendix 1 and an Appendix 2. And we have Appendix 1 for our species at CMS, which means that you can't take them. That's the main prohibition, which means you're not supposed to hunt them, you're not supposed to take them out of the wild. What's happened in a few cases is there might be a species that's listed on Appendix 1 for CMS, but CITES has it on their less protective appendix, which is their Appendix 2, which allows legal trade in that species. The issue is simply, if you are a CMS party, should you be trading in a species if it's protected more strongly under CMS? That's the issue. So I'm very pleased with the decision that came out because it gives authority for CMS to investigate this fully. We'll work with CITES, we'll look at the data, we'll see what's going on the ground, and then we can come back with a fuller understanding of what's actually happening out there. So we know, is this legal, is it not legal, and what are the implications of trade in Appendix 1 CMS species on their conservation status. I can't hear you.
Come again?
Parties who have not shared trade data, right?
Parties are not required. It's not in the final decision.
Again, what I have, there was discussion that at this point in time, we need more information. And so there was a resolution originally proposed, which had to do with what parties would do. But there was a discussion that we're not quite ready for action because we don't know what action is needed by parties. That was the sentiment of the room. So this is the first step. But there will be a report back, I'm sure, to the intersessional. We won't wait 3 years. In other words, we have these meetings of the Standing Committee and the Scientific Council in between. We have at least 2 meetings of each planned in the coming couple of years. So the information that we find will be brought back to them for advice, and I think that is actually very appropriate action. Let's look at what the data show us first, and then we look at what does that mean in terms of policy.
Okay, thank you, Emmy. Next question. Over there.
Thank you. I'm Gopal Katesia from the Indian Express. My question is to the Executive Secretary. If the proposal in the budget of Daniel of listing rights, has that issue been sorted out? Secondly, what budget scenario has been agreed upon? And has there been any written representation from Pakistan, any submission? Because I think they have been not represented in the meeting. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, I'll try to repeat the question. There was a little bit of a difficulty to understand.
Come again, please clearly.
Yeah, my question is, has there been any agreement on the proposal to deny listing rights to parties, those who are in arrears? Secondly, what budget scenario has been agreed upon, if at all? And has there been any written submission from Pakistan? Because they haven't spoken on the floor of the meeting. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, now I've got it. Okay. So there was a resolution adopted on the budget. It was just taken place in the room. And what that does is adopts our program of work, and it adopts a budget for CMS Secretariat for our work until the next COP from 2021 and then for 3 years to 2023. The issue of arrears, there had been some language in the document that would have said that countries who are 3 or more years in arrears are not allowed to actually submit any proposals for listing, for example, or for other measures, and that was not included in the final budget resolution. There still remains, however, 2 strong punitive measures, if you will, that are in the resolution with respect to parties 3 or more years in arrears, meaning that they owe money. They haven't paid their contributions for 3 or more years. And those are, number 1, they're not allowed to vote. So if they come here and they have credentials, they're in the meeting, they cannot vote. Number 2, they're also not to serve on any of the governing bodies of CMS. So they can't be the chair, they can't be on the standing committee, they can't be in the scientific council. So those are pretty strong tools. That's your first question. Well, yes, the second question is the budget. What was adopted was what we call scenario 2. So they did not go for the lowest, which is great. Number 2 is good. It includes a little bit of funding to strengthen the Secretariat's staffing, let's say, the support for us. And they also included establishment of a new position, a professional post for avian species. They gave us about 2/3 of the money, new funds for that, and we have to find the rest in savings from my current staffing and vacant posts, that kind of thing. So we're very pleased to have additional funding specifically aimed at avian species, because we need help with that in our staffing. The last thing on Pakistan, I'm not aware of any proposals that they have submitted, and I understand they have not joined us at this meeting, so I don't know more. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Emmy. Any other questions? Matthew, right here in front.
Hi, I'm Ajit Jha from United News of India. And my question is to Emmy that you said that second scenario of budget had been accepted. But at the same time, you had asked for, there was a proposal for deputy executive that was not accepted. And so in that case, there is some hint that you are not getting enough budget. In that case, how do you see that it will impact the conservation of species?
Okay, so if I heard you correctly, another question about the budget and the level of support. Yeah, I mean, honestly, budget discussions are always difficult. I mean, it's As you know, it's not the easiest financial time for every country, so it's not so easy to have a position that supports an increase, and that's what we got. So as I said, I'm very grateful that we were able to get an increase over, I should have the percentage, but basically we've increased, first of all, with inflationary costs, so we're keeping constant with inflation, which is really important. We've also got about 203,000 euros that was added for additional staffing. That's for a 3-year period. And we also have about 30,000 euros total for 3 years added for additional support for training and, making sure that our staff are well equipped to carry out their responsibilities. But that's just the core funding. I think it's very important to stress that we get a lot of funding for what we do in our programmatic activities, so all the things we do in terms of getting out there and doing conservation work, holding meetings, holding technical meetings, having policy discussions. Those usually happen through voluntary funds. And we're very pleased, for example, that the government of India, as you know, and I think it was 6 other countries agreed to give us some voluntary funds and they became champions. They were recognized. We just signed an agreement with UAE, the government of UAE, for quite a few $1 million actually for supporting an office that we have in Abu Dhabi, and that supports the work of Raptors MOU and dugongs. So in other words, we have a core budget, it's been increased, and we will continue to have the support for program, and I'm going to keep working very hard to get even more support through our partners and other means. So I'm optimistic about the support for CMS leaving this COP.
Okay, thank you, Amy. Any other questions? Yeah, please.
Amy, my question is directed to you. I'm Meghna from DD News. I wanted to know what have been the discussions on illegal trade and killing of migratory birds, and also Mr. Dasgupta, I wanted to ask you, there was a thing that there will be discussion on marine litter, which are also affecting species. So what is on both the fronts? I need a world perspective and also from India. Thank you.
So should I take it, Amy, first? Marine litters?
Sure.
Yeah. It's a very important question that you have raised, and the Honorable Prime Minister in his speech has already announced that India will be moving ahead with the marine turtle policy and marine stranding policy. See, there are a number of components in both these policies, and one of the component is also concerned about the marine litters and marine pollution. So, yeah, it will be addressed through these policies, and that's what have been decided till date. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, just on the just building on the plastics, I mean, what we brought to this COP, I mean, there's been a lot of focus on marine litter, and that's a huge problem, continues to be, and I know that India has taken a leadership role on this issue of plastic. In fact, this conference is plastic free, which was amazing, and that's just one step. But what we found is there's very little scientific studies on the existence and the impact of plastic pollution on other kinds of environmental areas, including freshwater and terrestrial species. And there have been a few studies, and the studies that we've seen actually do show that there's some problems. So we have, essentially the decision here is calling for more work to be done to look at what's happening. And in fact, speaking of funding, I think we're going to get some funding. I can't say from who or confirm it yet, but we've been having discussions that would support some additional scientific work on this very topic. So that's great. In terms of the illegal trade, first let me actually backtrack and say we are coming out of here with decisions to move us forward on every single topic that we brought to this COP. So it's very successful. I think we have over 40 resolutions that have been moving forward, including on the topic of the illegal trade and killing of birds. So I actually have not followed the exact outcome, but all of the documents, you can see them. They're all going to be posted on our website, so you can see exactly what was agreed on any topic that you're interested in. It's called our in-session documents on our website, and we can show you how to find that if you don't see it. But the positive news is, we got consensus to move forward on every single topic that we brought to this COP, and additional commitments that have come forward.
There's one thing that, if you may, just one thing that I want to add. When you're talking about poaching, we know that the great Indian bustard is one bird which is really facing a very severe threat of extinction. And there is one, I mean, we are a little worried about the killings and the poaching that is happening in the other side of the border, that's in Pakistan. And as you know that great Indian bustard is included in Appendix 1. So all the parties who are party to this, who are party to this entire CMS, they are obligated, it is mandatory for them to follow the rules and regulations. So we hope, and we shall do, Amy will, and we'll all work together as the, as the leader, to ensure that all the countries, including Pakistan, do what is necessary for, saving the Indian bustard. One. Secondly, if I may add a little bit about the plastic, you have seen that our Honorable Prime Minister had actually taken the leadership role. He has actually gone to the beaches, done the flogging, taking plastic away, because, researchers have actually shown that fishes around South China Sea, or, in Japan, in marine fishes, they have actually found, plastic particles which are, a few microns in size inside the cell of the organisms, the fishes and everything. So those are the scientific studies that have come forward. So all of us are taking it very, very seriously, and India, along with all the countries, are going to take a, we are all going to play as leaders to ensure that marine littering, for which we really do not have much scientific study, can actually go forward, and we can help the marine species in a better way.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Supriyo. Next question over there, please.
Hello, I'm Himanshu here. You just mentioned about the GIB. Now, if I look at the IUCN reports, they are clearly stating that there is no specific information about the GIB in Pakistan. So now, since it might get included in Appendix 1, so would IUCN is also a party to this CMS? So would you request IUCN to take up a study in Pakistan about GIB?
Let me take it, huh? Yeah. Yeah, GIB is a big question, internationally, and especially it starts off in India. So the number, as we have, when we submitted our proposal, we have stated that the number has gone down to nearly 150 now. So it can be said that it is in the brink of disaster. So India wants that it will do anything for conservation of these species. The first thing that they have done, they have already initiated a project for conservation of the great Indian bustard in the country itself. The initial programs are now concentrated towards Rajasthan, and other states like Maharashtra, Gujarat are also a part of that project. Side by side, there are reports, scientific reports, that the birds do fly to Pakistan. So we need to ensure that the species receives equal protection that we are providing here in India in the neighboring countries. That was the very purpose for which we wanted to use the CMS instrument, so that this particular species, which is facing rather you can say it's in the brink of disaster, should be protected the best way possible. And that's what our Honorable Minister has stated. Our only intention here is that we want the neighboring countries where the species, especially the GIB which flies, are also given equal status of protection, so that the birds, the number starts increasing, and one day we can say that the GIB is out of endangerment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sumitra. I think we have time for 2 more questions. Over there, please.
Yeah. Oh, no. I'm Joymala from ANI. Sir, I have a question. Like, there are collaborations there worldwide regarding the transborder conservations. Yet we are seeing threats. We are in this particular perspective. How successful do you think such international conventions, and also as there are parties and all, how successful do you think it comes up to these?
Okay, I think we need to just repeat the last part of your question. That was a little bit unclear. So what is the question, please?
Just that, how successful do you think such international conventions, yet we are seeing the collaborations, yet there are poachings, there are conversations, threats to the animals, although there are treaties and also. I just want to know how successful and what are the specific things, very ground reports or the specific things that's been done so far.
Okay. Yeah, no, it's a very good question because, you know, we are at the international level. What we do is bring countries and partners, NGOs, scientists, and others together so we can have a discussion, we can make agreements on what is needed, but then, you know, when it comes to implementation, you know, my office supports it, but we're not at the forefront. Who's at the forefront are the countries themselves. The entities are on the ground actually working on the conservation issues, and it's not always easy. That's absolutely correct. And, you know, there are issues sometimes of, you know, compliance or enforcement or other factors. So a good example, in fact, we issued the study, we talked about it in the opening press conference and during the meeting, is this report that we looked at on the status of migratory species. And we found, at least initially, some worrying statistics, including that 70% of the species on Appendix 1 are declining in population. So it's not 70% of them, it's 70%, in other words, the trend overall is going down for the majority of the species. That's how you should interpret that. We need to look more closely, though, about what does that mean at the species level, what's actually happening on the ground. But I can explain that that includes a few different risks. One such risk is habitat loss. Agriculture tends to be the biggest cause of habitat loss globally. So, you know, I'm not saying particular area or country, but globally, habitat loss is still a huge problem for biodiversity generally and for our species. But also for our species is the issue of overexploitation. That means basically taking them out of the wild, whether it be intentionally or unintentionally. So intentionally could be killing them, hunting them, or taking them out for other purposes, for zoos, for trade, poaching. It also can mean unintentionally, such as in the example of bycatch, of unintended, you know, the non-target species in a fishery. So the final point is we have a lot of work to do. There's no question. And this meeting provides the direction that we need to go in, but we need all of our partners and others to help us to make sure that we implement what has been agreed here.
Okay, thank you. I think
to Amy and to the minister, that when you are saying that take the mic. Now India will be leading the presidency for 3 years, and it will take a lead role. What is being done about the wetlands that are being destroyed by dumping industrial effluents? Even right from this place, a few kilometers from this place, a wetland is being destroyed called Gatera. Effluents are being dumped and nothing is being done about it. Forest officials, they have received lots of complaints regarding them from the NGOs and activists. And they are saying that it is not our subject, it is the subject of Revenue Department. Yeah. So this kind of destruction is going on. So, hello? Yes. So what is being done to the minister as well as for the ME? This question.
Yeah. This is not something that really ME can answer, because this is, you're talking about something which is a problem in India. And let me assure you that for a very long time, the threat that was being imposed on wetlands, with people being careless about it, has cost us. And therefore, right now we have some very stringent measures in terms of how to deal with it. But having the measures in place do not eradicate. There are a lot of laws, there are, you know, stringent penalties in place, but it has not stopped it. And there is no, I'm not hesitating at all to admit that it has not been 100% or even I would say a very, very successful implementation of what we really aspire to do. But in terms of specifics, I would request Mr. Dasgupta to go ahead with it. It is not true that we are not thinking about wetlands and things are not being done at all. That's not really true. To put it in the international forum in that manner might not put things in the in the right perspective, given the fact that we have actually created a wetland development authority that has been formed recently, very recently, to ensure that this carelessness, I would call, that was being that the wetlands actually faced, or the importance that was not given to wetlands, are properly addressed. And we have experts and scientists in that panel to not only guide the ministry, but also prepare the right ways to how we can conserve that. So he can throw a little bit of light on it, but I had the opportunity to chair one of these meetings, and I was also in a conference in it happened in Lucknow or Dehradun. In Dehradun, which was especially on wetlands. We had it only about a month back, where specifically all the issues pertaining to wetlands were discussed. And it was discussed in the light of this new wetland development authority that has been formed. So the government is doing everything, but to say that we are doing everything means we have solved the problems is right, not right. The approach is there, and in the next 3 years, having taken the leadership role in CMS, we will definitely ensure that we do much better than what we are doing right now. So if you have any specifics, Mr. Dasgupta.
Thank you, sir. And you have put the context in the right direction. I would just want to add, we understand fully your questions. We appreciate what you have said, that there are divergence or multiplicity of agencies in the management of wetland. But you will appreciate the fact that India has already released its Central Asian Flyway National Action Plan, which envisages the wetlands, all the wetlands, identified wetlands, to be a part of the process. That means that action plan has conservation of migratory birds, also entails the conservation of the habitats, these wetlands. So we now understand, we have been also told that there is a wetland authority which has been created here with a unified command. All these divergence of thoughts and actions will now be removed, and hopefully in the near future, the issue that you are raising will be addressed. So we are only keeping our fingers crossed, but with the leadership of Central Asian Flyway that the Honorable Prime Minister has also announced, we are hopeful that it will be solved.
Okay, thank you very much. That brings us to the end of this press conference. I have to let the panel go because the exciting part of the day will start with the plenary decisions. So I encourage everyone who's interested to also go into that room. Thank you very much to all of you for this press conference. I also want to say thank you to the media for being here. And yeah, one final word.
We thank you everyone for being present, for covering the CMS and putting it in the right perspective in what you saw, not only in terms of what you saw, what you didn't see, what you want the future CMS to include. And if I may, as a last last word to what you asked, I would say that acknowledging a problem is the right way to understand that you want to solve the problem. If you do not acknowledge the problem and you stay in rhetoric and you stay in denial, the problem never gets solved. So you can understand that holding conferences, especially for wetlands, as I said, I attended one in Dehradun, and to have a wetland development authority in place which is discussing that, to have our Honorable Prime Minister make specific announcements on it, shows that we are serious about it, and the acknowledgement also comes from there that we can do much better than what is being done right now. So that's something that I really wanted to add to what I said, and thank you once again, all of you, on part of the government, on part of CMS AMI and the government of Gujarat, for all that you have done in the last few days, and I hope that you get to see the last plenary session in the manner it is going to be performed. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much.